For Russell Wilson, icon of the Pacific Northwest, not just Seattle, if the right guy, quote unquote, right guy was available, Key would make a move in a heartbeat to move out Russell Wilson. But the question is, who's that guy?
I wouldn't hesitate to move Russell Wilson if somebody like a Deshaun was available. I would even look at a guy like a Sam Darnold if he becomes available to the point where the Jets will be willing to take Russell Wilson back and we can figure out the compensation on those sort of things. Because what I'm looking to do if I'm Pete Carroll and I'm Snyder, the general manager, is I'm looking to continue to play defense, run the football, and every now and then I'm going to hit some explosive throws. That's it. That's what they want to do. They don't want to throw the ball 55 times a game. They're not asking to throw the ball. And I know when you look at it, everybody, oh, man, that dude, man, Russell this, Russell that. It's like, no, man, you got to see who's winning these Super Bowls and how they're doing it. They're not doing it throwing the ball all over the lot. They're doing it by having balance and playing defense. And so based on everything that Seattle has gone throughout Russ's career, it's at a point now, I think, where Pete and some of the people within that organization is growing tired of Russell's act to a point where it's like, okay, man, you know what? We can find a quarterback that fits us exactly like we found you. We really believe that. And they believe that because if you look at the second half of the season last year when they went back to Seattle's style of the past, they started winning football games again. When he had that stretch of turning the ball over because they were throwing the ball so much. And the offensive line was horrible. Yes, that's true. The offensive line was not great, but he was holding on to the ball an awful lot. And so when you start to put all that together, it's like, well, come on, Russ. You know, you look at it, and it's like, well, I can get away with another type of quarterback that could give me some of the same things without the money and without all the headache.
He holds on to the ball a little bit, but still, like he's on pace to be the most sacked quarterback in the history of the NFL, right? He's been sacked 400 times over his 9-year career. That's 44 times a year. I hear you, Key, but I'm saying if Russ could have the perfect world scenario, Sean Payton on line one, I want to go to the Saints. I don't know why he gave the other three options. If you're going to send me somewhere, if I do not want to be here, find a way to make it work with a team that is ready to win the Super Bowl, not in 2 years, not in 3 years, but yesterday. And that's the New Orleans Saints. And I know they have Jameis Winston, but whatever they have to give up, I will go for a guy like Russell Wilson.
Well, yeah, look, Russell Wilson is not – I'm not saying Russell Wilson can't play in the National Football League. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is if I'm Seattle and it's getting on my nerves to a point where I'm tired of the back and forward, playing the games. 1 minute you want to be traded, the next minute you're not. But your agent is telling Adam Schefter, here's 4 teams, but you don't want to be traded. Like, that's too much. At some point, you're affecting the rest of the team and alienating guys. Guys are going to start to look at you sideways when you walk in the building. They already feel a certain way about you, you know. They already feel a certain way about you.
Go ahead and go there. Go ahead and go there.
I'm just saying they already feel a certain way about you. It's well documented. And so when that happens, you now as an organization have to make a decision. If there's suitors that are out there like the New Orleans Saints, we're willing to trade him. What are you willing to give me back? True. If he goes to New Orleans and New Orleans has something to give back and they have salary cap space, then New Orleans is going to be right there going to the Super Bowl.
Well, Key, bring me back to Seattle then, because my thing is, how do you fix it? Do you fix it? Is the only way to fix it because you're already acquiesced to everything that he has asked for? You're going to have a new OC. Like, granted, what, do you want every single change that you want to make on the offensive line? Do you want Pete Carroll to make all those changes? Is it offensively? Do you want to run the system that you want to run? Is Pete Carroll supposed to say, okay, look, you're not going to have my input. You run what you want to run. What will make Russell Wilson happy in Seattle to keep him? And if you're an organization, you have to make that measured decision.
Well, he signed off on the offensive coordinator that who was the guy?
Shane Waldron.
Shane Waldron. He signed off on that. Hey, he met him, signed off on it. Okay. They hired a guy. So there's 1 point for Russell Wilson. Offensive line is going to be shored up by drafting guys and developing guys or finding guys in free agency. They understand that they have an offensive line issue at times. There's no question about it. But a lot of times when you talk about sacks, it's not only the offensive line, it's also the quarterback holding on to the football. You have to let the ball go at times. And I think you ask the question how they can fix it. I don't know, because I don't know how damaged it is.
It just seems, Key, like his image is transitioning slightly to prima donna. It feels a little bit like that from the outside looking in. I don't know internally. I'm just saying how it seems on the outside looking in a little bit.
I think it's always been that way, Zubin. We just hearing a little bit more. That's why Richard Sherman had issues with him in the past.
Yeah, I'll just say one last thing. Life cuts both ways. What's Pete Carroll's favorite word? Keys knows this from his USC days. Compete, right? They drafted Russell Wilson and had him compete with a guy they signed to a $26 million contract, which was gargantuan back then, in Matt Flynn. And what happened?
Tricked him.
When week 1 of the regular season happened, Russell Wilson was the starter and the $26 million man was on the bench. That's because they competed and Russell Wilson won. Guess what? It cuts the other way too. We are always competing to get better at the quarterback position. So if we think you are slipping quite a bit, you should overcompensate and be able to overcome the issues on our offensive line. That's why we're paying you all this money. It cuts both ways. It benefited Russell in the beginning, and now they're thinking, to an extent, maybe, just maybe, we need to compete and raise this guy's game level, which is crazy as it sounds. All right, so on the way, we're going to continue the Watson discussion. We haven't really touched on that. He met with head coach David Culley a week ago. His heels are dug in. Yay. So are the Texans, in that he's not going anywhere. So what happens next, and why draft picks and why draft picks are at the heart of this discussion. A quick reminder, ESPN will televise The Undefeated Presents A Room of Our Own, a 1-hour special that explores the connection that black athletes have with music and the impact of that association in powering social movements. The program will debut Sunday, February 28th at noon Eastern on ESPN, with an encore presentation Sunday, March 7th at 4 Eastern on ABC. A Room of Our Own will focus on how music inspires black athletes to drive change in their communities and highlight some of the athletes who have been at the forefront of social change, using their voices to express the range of emotions, anger, outrage, hope, and promise in the struggle for racial justice. The program will combine narrative storytelling, taped conversations, and roundtable discussions with performances of songs from the Undefeated music series.
The Houston Texans are not trading Deshaun Watson.
As long as Deshaun Watson keeps his heels planted firmly, he'll be fine. Can't threaten it and then not do it. He's got to stick to it.